Well, welcome back to another Campagnolo wireless video. And since my previous release of my video, some of the information, or the nitty gritty as we want to call it, has come out. And there's a lot more change than what I first believed had been changed on this Super Record. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the nitty gritty of these changes, because they're actually very significant, even though when you look at the group set, it does look very similar to the old Super Record, but pretty much nothing is compatible with the old one, apart from maybe the brake discs and the brake calipers. So all of the other stuff has been updated, and this is kind of a little bit concerning to a number of people who are Campagnolo vets. So we're going to roll the intro, and we're going to dive deep into these changes, what I think about them, and someone who's been running Campagnolo for quite a while, and why I think this is probably in some parts of the group set a bad move from Campagnolo. So let's roll the intro and let's actually go in and have a look at this nitty gritty, maybe why they've done it and what I think about that. Now, I've got a list, so I don't want to miss anything, because it's actually very important, these changes, because they may seem on the face of it just aligning with the rest of the industry, but those other products have had criticisms before. Now, the one thing we're going to, which is obvious, which I covered in the last video, is the thumb shifter has been deleted. Now, as far as the functionality of the group set, that's not a big difference. It's just a different user interface. Now, I'm disappointed myself, because I actually like that thumb shifter. I like the completely separate, so you can't hit or touch the other switch easily. Whilst where we're at the moment, if you probably had gloves on or your hands are a bit cold, you could push the wrong lever easily. You kind of have to try and work out which one's top and bottom. It's not as separated, so if you hit this one, you can't possibly hit the other one. They're just so far apart when you have the thumb shifter. And I actually don't really understand why they've done this. Now, some people have said they want to align with the other brands, but SRAM is completely different to Shimano. Campagnolo is completely different to the other two. I don't know if that's the reason why Campagnolo haven't got more market share. I don't think that's actually a good argument. It's just that they need to get more of their group sets on bikes, and they need to be more competitive, because when you've priced yourself at the top of the market, which they have, I think that was a poor marketing decision by Campagnolo. They're not on off-the-shelf bikes currently. They're more of a custom group set. And why would you price yourself significantly more than the other brands? It just to me is not a good marketing. They should have been aiming for the price to be just under, even if it was only $100 recommended retail above Shimano, even if it was $1, it needs to be at that price of the biggest group set. If they can make a group set for that price, Campagnolo need to make their drivetrain of how they make these group sets be able to be competitive, at least on price. Because if I was buying a bike and I'm going, hang on, I've got to spend $800 US more, that could be the deciding factor why I don't buy the Campagnolo. So that's the one thing. I think the price is pretty prohibitive. Now, we know they're all the three group sets for their top iteration is pretty hefty, but that's the prices around about, and you need to fit in with that price structure. Now, the other thing that they've done, which I didn't realize initially just looking at the website, is the Freehub and the rear sprocket cluster has changed. Now, I'm not sure on this. I don't know. I'm just surmising. I would imagine that Freehub is the same they're using on the E-car, which is the 13 group set, because it would be beyond me that they've made a third Freehub for the Campagnolo's group sets. So I would imagine that Freehub system is the new one that's on the Eco, which can potentially fit 13 gears. Now, this kind of makes sense to me because they obviously want to move to a 13 speed at some stage. Maybe even with this group set release, they were thinking 13 speed, but maybe they hadn't got it all sorted out yet. And this is like an interim super record. 2 years time or a year's time, we're going to see a 13 speed. So I probably wouldn't buy this group set. I would wait till they come out to their next Series 2 before, because this group set has had a lot of changes to it, even though that may not seem like it when you just look at it on the surface. And the reason why I was critical of SRAM for going to this 10 speed is, one, it's not as efficient. Now, even if you argue the efficiency loss is minor, which Campagnolo are arguing, smaller cogs, they just wear quicker. If you are doing a lot of speed riding and you're in those smaller gears, you're going to wear your cassette out. I've actually done it when I had a one by. You get into those gears more because you want to keep your speed up, you're cruising, and you just wear those gears out in the cassette. So because they're smaller and also your front chain rings are smaller, your replacement of your chain rings for doing the same type of riding is going to be higher. And of course, when you're spending this sort of money, that kind of is a little bit hard to swallow. And going on about the chain rings as well, is with the Chorus, they had a smaller chain ring set, and that actually had an issue because the amount of material that had to be there to mount that smaller chain ring was actually problematic, and they had a lot of problems with nuts coming loose and so forth. So I don't know if Campagnolo have used a similar design on this new Super Record, or they've changed that, because that was a problem with the 48, 30, 32 that I've got on my rain bike, and it's just not a good design. There's just not enough material there, and there must be flex and movement because the bolts, the threads get damaged, they come loose. It's just not a good design, and that's happened to a number of people. So excuse me. So that I hope Campagnolo have addressed that design and not just lifted that from their older crankset, which was on the Chorus. Excuse me. Now, the other thing which they've put on the bike is there's two batteries. Now, there's nothing wrong with having two batteries. I don't think, as far as the design point of view, that is an issue. But the batteries are not the same. Now, they're arguing that they had to do that because of SRAM's patent. They couldn't make them the same, which is a real shame, because then we haven't got that SRAM advantage of swapping them over. And also the chargers are going to have to be dedicated. I'm not too sure how the chargers are. They're saying that it's just a clip, magnetically clips on, and it couples to the battery. If that's the case, it still would be one charger for the two batteries. But what it does limit you is if one of your derailleurs goes flat, you can't swap them over and power the other, which is a little bit disappointing. As I said, maybe that is because of patent rules. Campagnolo just couldn't get around it. Now, the other thing which I think is extremely disappointing is that on this Super Record model, they're not supporting rim brakes. Now, the reason why I think that that's a real negative is because not everyone is buying a brand new frame set. Some people are restoring old frame sets, but they're restoring it with all of the best material on. They're putting expensive wheels on, they're putting expensive group sets on, and the frame could be some rare steel bike or an aluminium or something that, like I'm restoring a super bike, which is quite rare, and you want to put something on it that's high end. I'm not going to put a Super Record on, but just say I was going to, I can't put this new grip set on it because it doesn't offer rim brake, and it's a rim brake bike. So I think that is a real negative that Campagnolo are missing here. They could have been that boutique group set that you can not only can fit on a new bike, but you can fit on that very loved old bike or rare bike or rare frame that you have, and you want to have a modern group set that's going to change like a modern group set with all the modern features, but you wanted to put that on your older frame. So even if you've got a frame that's even 10 years old, or something that you had that was signed by some pro that is a unique frame, and well, you're stuffed. You can't put this group set on. So I think that's a bit disappointing. They didn't offer that, or even offer the wireless in the old group set with, I don't know, maybe they didn't want to make two, but I don't think, I would have rather just seen the old group set, and I can tell you right now, I've got the old design group set. The Record works absolutely fantastic. I would probably argue that it's the better of the three on the market as far as front and rear changing. But that's just my personal opinion. I've heard with some of the other brands, they have problem with chain drops on the front derailleur. The Campagnolo is rock solid there. The particular model that they're replacing with this latest Super Record was absolutely rock solid in its operation. So I don't know why they've changed the whole concept of everything, because now they're going to have to make a new system that works from 10 speed to 29. They've got different chain rings. And that, even though we might not see that on the surface, with all the different frames and the different chain stay lengths and everything, it kind of can upset the way that the bikes operate. It might seem a little thing, but these things can just upset the way the drivetrains work, and they don't work quite as nice. So that's where we are with the smaller chain rings. I don't really think that they've gone the right way here, and they're not offering the big chain rings either, only a maximum of 50. I know that the 50-10 ratio is still pretty tall, but maybe they'll offer big chain rings if the pros want them. Now, we spoke about the price. Now, I do think that this is the biggest mistake Campagnolo have made. Now, they keep talking about patents, they keep talking about competing with other brands, and they've gone to the two lever systems on the ergo powers because they want to be more like the other brands. Well, if you're more expensive, that's a main barrier, it's a main hurdle to get over. And I think that they should have, as I've said before, priced it underneath the other two brands. The other thing that people don't like, I don't really care about this, but to me, I don't think it's a major issue, and I don't think the aerodynamics really makes any difference, right? But is the larger derailleurs. Now, the front one, which is a technical thing, right? The size doesn't matter, but this is actually a technical thing. If the size of the tyre is too large, you can have an issue with it hitting the derailleur, the front derailleur, because it's so big. Now, with the popularity of gravel bikes, I think this is another major mistake. That even if they'd chamfered it or curved the back of it or something, because if people are buying the most expensive group set, they want it to be the most flexible. They go, why am I paying $800 US more for this group set when it has limitations that the other ones don't have? So to me, that is another issue. It's a physical issue of the size of the derailleur. And I've spoken about gear wear. Gear wear is definitely going to be higher with this group set. And I think that's small. To me, smaller cassettes, smaller chain rings is a silly way to go. First of all, they're just not as efficient, right? I mean, okay, they may be getting a little bit more weight out of it, but let's be real. In that part of the bike, it doesn't matter. Anyway, everyone's saying weight doesn't matter. I'm just a silly bugger saying weight doesn't matter. But I don't think if you're taking something away to make it lighter, I don't think that's a really good decision, because you're having, with the smaller chain rings and the smaller cassette, the chain is taking much tighter curves. It's going to wear quicker. Your chain's going to wear quicker. Your gears are going to wear quicker. And I do believe, now I haven't done any tests with this, but I do believe the smaller front chain rings, they don't shift as nice because you're not got such a smoother curve. It's got a more sharper curve. And I do think it does play its part in compromising front derailleur shifting. That's just my opinion, bud. Now, I've said this before, I think this is a interim group set. They want to move to 13 speed, but maybe for some reason they hadn't got it all finished, because I would bet my bottom dollar that Freehub is the same as the e-car, and they are already looking forward to put this 13 speed on this group set. So it may not actually be that long. It may only be a couple of years before we see that come out. So I can understand why they've gone to these smaller chain rings and the smaller cassettes, because they're setting the whole group set up. So when they go to 13 speed, it'll just be new rear derailleur, new cassette, maybe even a new programming of the rear derailleur. I don't know, but I know the big brands don't like to just give you things for almost nothing. But there might be a fee and you can get your derailleur reprogrammed, put your 13 speed on, new chain, and you're away with the new 13 speed. But we'll have to see. But I do think that this is a half step to them going to 13 speed. So that's it, guys. That's about all I can see on this group set so far. It's a bit disappointing. I can understand why they've done some of the technology. I don't understand why they've gone away from the thumb shifter, unless that's a mechanism, manufacturing design to make the hood smaller or some reason. But to just take the thumb shifter away to the 2-lever shifter because they're trying to compete with other brands, I think that's a mistake, because people who buy Campagnolo are not the people who just want the everyday one-of-the-mill group set. They want something that's a little bit different. And they're used to the thumb shifter, and what they're going to do is alienate the people that are already bought into that type of interface. So I don't really think that that's a great idea. All of making the chain rings, the chain rings smaller, I don't think is a great idea. I understand that this may be the half step to 13 speed, but even still, it's, as far as technically goes, it's not a good move. Well, anyway, guys, leave your comments down below. What do you think about this Campagnolo? It's a real bittersweet type of group set. They've made these changes, but as a 12 speed of what we had before, it doesn't really give us any benefit. If it had a 13 speed on it, you could probably argue, yeah, they've gone the 13 speed because they're using that smaller 10-speed cog, and they've gone to the new Freehub. They've pinched it from the e-car. You can kind of argue that they did that on purpose to move to a 13 speed. But with it being 12 speed, you go, well, why have we changed all this drivetrain? They could have done that to the next model. But anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it, guys. So leave your comments down below, and I will see you next vid.